Welcome. This is an article review presentation to validate accuracy in digital elevation models by reducing the resolution and then increasing the resolution for analysis. It's based on a paper by Stephen Weiss, presented for Geospatial Engineering Class 5383 at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. The reason I chose this article is because I deal quite a bit with surface models in heavy construction industry and trying to use remote sensing to create those surface models for bid takeoff purposes. A digital elevation model is a raster image where the cell size has a color density that represents an elevation on the Earth's surface. So it's a mosaic tile of different densities and cells that represent actual elevations on the ground. And there's been a problem with analyzing the accuracy of these digital elevation models and taking them at face value. So that's another interest of mine, is how accurate is the data being used to analyze. And the common method in the past would be the root mean square error, where you would take a point where you would predict the elevation and you would subtract the observed elevation, summate that squared, and then divide it by how many iterations are there. And that's a common method. But there's serious problems with using the RMSE method to analyze digital elevation models. One of the problems is that it doesn't analyze enough coverage to be valuable. In a digital elevation model that might cover several kilometers squared, there might be only 7 or 8 points that can be validated using the RMSE instead of some sort of continuous coverage to say, overwhelmingly is how accurate is the DEM to actual realization. So there's really not enough elevation checks on the actual surface, other than in the past they've used just geodetic control points, a few random spot elevations to compare it, but it is by no means has enough coverage to validate even using RMSE as a measure to even find out. So some of the other options that they've come up with in the past to try to fix these problems, just to try to validate if RMSE is an accurate tool for assessing accuracy, was to create a synthetic surface using just a computer program. The problem with that is they're just not complex enough, but the accuracy of the elevation checks are 100%, but they weren't complex enough. And so if you try to take another approach by looking at a more complex environment where the terrain varies quite a bit, it's difficult to compare multiple data sources in that area, because if they were slightly translated off or rotated off or had a different scale or curvature, that it would become difficult to make those comparisons accurately. So there was no stability in multiple lineages of the data sets. So the authors of this paper offered a different solution by altering resolutions to make better comparisons. And kind of the technology that this came out of was when they were studying the Greenland ice sheets melt, they needed high resolution digital elevation models that were produced from low resolution data. And so that's kind of where the method came from, taking a low resolution data set and increasing the resolution so that it's applicable. How the author did it in this example to solve those problems was they created an independent downsampling program to reduce high resolution DEMs to a low resolution DEM, and then they used interpolating patterns to bring it back up to a high resolution DEM and compare it that way with the RMSE. And the reason why they had to create an independent downsampling is because a lot of the popular programs, Esri and other GIS softwares, interpolated data because there's such a strong autocorrelation between the adjoining cells in the digital elevation model. So as they brought it back up from that low resolution to a high resolution, they did multiple different interpolation techniques to see which ones would work better The bilinear reduced the best, and the spline methods interpolated up higher the best. So conclusions, they ended up choosing an area in Scotland called the Cairngorms that had high glacial mountains that quickly approached the sea, so the terrain would be incredibly diverse and they could quickly see issues. Underestimation of elevations, they occurred in high ridges, and overestimations of elevations occurred in valleys, but primarily where there was large flat areas with soft slopes. That kind of information was fairly accurate. And I have that kind of experience in the past also, taking a digital elevation model and trying to find where slope breaks are on a surface. They're pretty wild. The second order derivatives from the RMSE could be used to analyze other things like gradient slope, where you could make connections between contour maps, see where digital elevations were produced by existing contour maps, which is a common method now. So if you download data from Tenris for a digital elevation model and it's wildly inaccurate, their data source came from USGS quad map contours that were probably produced in the 50s from ortho photogrammetry. So diverse terrain is necessary to evaluating even the usefulness of the RMSE analysis. That was another big question. Like, there just really wasn't enough experimentation with that method to even see if it was valuable for basically assigning, yes, this digital elevation model is accurate, or no, it's not. And so they found out that terrain definitely played a big part in the results of this method. And this methodology could also be used in reverse to determine sampling size parameters to create digital elevation models from low resolution. So, and the authors encouraged more and more examples of this type of research. Thank you.